Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 80 of Code Lyoko, Dog Day Afternoon. This is a filler episode, plain and simple. Essentially, the premise of the episode is that Odd and Aelita just have to go to Lyoko because, well, Jeremy's developed a new security protocol for the William Clone's tower. So, instead of, inputting it himself, via the supercomputer, because I think that'd be easier. Instead, Aelita has to input it manually, and ultimately, all she needs just a bot. She just needs at least one bodyguard to make sure that Xana doesn't come in and screw with them. As such, Odd's the one that volunteers, but before he goes, he mentions how he would like to virtualize Kiwi onto Lyoko, which is something that Jeremy just shoots down because he's a dog, and he thinks that Kiwi would get scared the instant he saw his first Cankrolite. His own words. But Odd being Odd and kind of being a dumbass, he brings Kiwi along anyway and hides him under his shirt while he gets virtualized. However, once Odd ends up on Lyoko, Kiwi is nowhere to be found. As such, he thinks it's just kind of a bust and just kind of pretends it didn't happen. But then he starts acting a little weird, like he scratches behind his ears. He hears two monsters being virtualized in, even though they're on the other side of the, even though they're they're on the other side of the landmass they're on. And when Jeremy virtualizes in his overboard to ride over to them, Odd can't keep his balance. As such, Aelita gets done with her job, no problem. So Odd goes to get. As such, they both get devirtualized. But even when devirtualized, Odd can't find Kiwi, and he begins taking on more qualities of a dog, having a stronger sense of smell, walking on all fours, and even suspecting that he's growing a tail. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust that. Well, yeah, if you're paying attention, you can pretty much figure out that Odd and Kiwi have merged, and the group ultimately manages to put this bit of information together as well. Jeremy thinks that he can fix it if he creates a program to essentially isolate their individual DNA and separate them, but they have to be wary if they don't do, because Odd may be the dominant factor, maybe the dominant personality right now, but given enough time, Kiwi's dog persona could end up overtaking his own. So they gotta do this quickly. However, the group does end up encountering problems. For starters, Sissy is starting to get suspicious of the William clone, and to cover it up, Yumi says that she is dating the William clone, and as such, and Sissy doesn't buy that for a second. So as such, she begins stalking them wherever they go, as Sissy just wants to talk to the William clone alone, and the thing is, the William clone is stupid. So odds are it could easily spill the beans, and it's different enough from William personality-wise that, of course, she's going to continue being suspicious. However, while Jeremy does send Odd to Lyoko so he can finish the program, Xana managed to take advantage of the situation by activating a tower. The thing is, a biker gang has been going to the factory and been using it as like a training ground, like doing wheelies, just playing around, goofing off, etc. The group even wound up dealing with them when they went in to get virtualized. As such, Xana activates a tower and possesses the biker gang. And while the majority of the group is in the lab, so they're safe and sound, Yumi ends up getting called for backup while they're waiting to get while Odd is waiting for Jeremy to get his code ready. Xana activated the tower, and so when Yumi goes to the factory, she ends up having to deal with the biker gang before she can even go to Lyoko. As such, the episode is just a war on two fronts. Jeremy's trying to get the code ready while Ulrich and Aelita have to get to the deactivated tower, which is of course guarded by tarantulas and William, and of course Yumi has to deal with the bikers that are hounding her throughout the factory. It's basically just standard Lyoko fare. Nothing new, nothing really that fantastic happens. No big plot details, but. And yeah, by the end of the episode, it's all resolved. I guess really, it's kind of hard for me to to describe filler episodes, especially for Code Lyoko. For Code Lyoko, as I mentioned before, the A plot and the B plot don't really have the same amount of significance. The A plot, which is usually Xana's hijinks, that takes priority, and that's predictable as can be. Xana starts an attack, and the group has to go to Lyoko to fix it. They fight a monster, while in the real world, that everyone is inching ever closer to death, and ultimately the only thing that people in the real world can do is just stave it off until Aelita can deactivate the tower. It's like, again, that's just kind of predictable stuff, and any other plots they have, they resolve rather quickly. So that's kind of a hard thing. So it's harder to talk about them talk about their stories in the game for the sake of a show. So I suppose really it's just and it's even worse with filler when there's no big plot relevant stuff or plot relevant or character deep stuff that happens. It's just there to just pad out the season and get that episode counter higher, or episode number count higher. So it's a little harder to talk about with them. But with that, so really it's just a matter of how much you enjoy the scenario, and it's harmless. It's cute, I suppose. It is of course triggered by Odd being odd, but nothing really new comes of it. No real big conflicts come from it. We see Odd acting like a dog, and they immediately recognize the problem and send him to Lyoko to get it fixed. Otherwise, the biggest problems are just getting Odd are just trying to make sure Odd doesn't get devirtualized until Jeremy finishes the program, which is not made better when he's attacked by 2 blocks. And of course, because Odd is still merged with Kiwi, he's not at his best. He's not at his best while fighting them. So he's just jumping around and taking pot shots when he can, but mostly hiding. So it is, of course, kind of hard. And of course, by the end of it, when they do manage to unfuse Odd and Kiwi, it is predictable. Even though with Sissy does get just resolved rather quickly. I don't know if she continues questioning the William clone after this episode, but how they resolve that is by Jeremy calling her and doing the voice synthesizer on the supercomputer to make it sound like he's her dad, and telling her, "Come home, you got homework to do." And then by the end of the episode, when she confronts the group about what's going on with William, Yumi says, "Oh yeah, I broke up with him. He's torn up about it. He's probably going to be torn up for a while." It's just like bait and switch, conflict resolved again. That's a personal pet peeve of mine with the show. I do like it, but it does it a lot. But it does it a lot, especially when they're going for filler episodes. So yeah. But honestly, though, while the filler plot is this filler plot is mostly just goofy fun. It's mostly just goofy fun. They play around with it, but then things get resolved. One thing about this episode that I think is actually outstanding is Odd, and I kind of wanted to save this rant for when I got to the end of the series and then talk about the characters and their journeys throughout. But honestly, I kind of want to talk about it here because this is an Odd-centered episode, and this episode I think is a great example of what that is. When it comes to Code Lyoko, the characters tend to have some forms of development. It's subtle here and there, but you do see it. For Yumi and Ulrich, it's their relationship and where it's going. Ulrich even has further development by learning to not be a hard ass and actually taking being a Lyoko warrior more seriously and having that take priority over personal relationships and having those affect his output. There's Aelita and her desire to not only leave Lyoko, but her relationship with Jeremy and how she wants to actually form an identity beyond being Franz Hopper's daughter or being trapped or just being the girl that was trapped in the computer. After all, she was trapped in there for years. Now she wants to re-experience. Now she wants to re-experience the world. I think that's development. Even Jeremy has some development. Throughout the series, you see him being more. Throughout the series, you saw him kind of be more detached emotionally, but as the series goes on, you see him opening up more, being kinder, being nicer, being nicer. You see him opening up more. I'm not saying he was a jerk at the beginning of the series, but you do see him little by little kind of opening up and being able to take more social cues. But in the case of Odd, he doesn't really have much in the way of development. From his first episode to his last, at least so far, what you see with him is what you get. He's a pompous, arrogant moron who would rather spend his days sitting around his room listening to music than actually studying. And he tends to do. Sorry if you heard that. That's my phone. That's my phone. That's just an alert. And he just kind of just sits around doing whatever he wants, and He likes to gloat. He's kind of arrogant. But one of his most defining characteristics, and something that I think keeps pushing him forward and makes him so endearing, is his loyalty to his friends. Here's the thing. Odd typically likes to find ways to cheat the system, find ways to get around certain objectives without putting any effort in. And in some regards, he's successful. Other times, it just gets him detention or blows up in his face. And this episode being a good example of that. He wanted to try and sneak Kiwi onto Lyoko, even though he was told not to, and it bit him in the ass when he and Kiwi were merged together. But the thing with Odd is, no matter the circumstances, no matter what happens, he's always there for his friends. No matter what's going on in his personal life, no matter whatever who's in trouble, if he hears that Xana is launching an attack, or that any other member of the Lyoko Warriors is in danger, he rushes in, guns blazing, ready to help them. And that's been exemplified in other points in the series. In Season 1, when we were first introduced to his major love interest, Sam, and I'm only calling her Major because we saw her twice in the series, he was willing to cover for her stealing a computer because he genuinely cared about her, and because of the stuff with her family, which again I think is stupid that they just said that stuff instead of showing it to us. I think that, or was it her family, or was it, I forget, whatever. Bottom line, he was willing to cover for her despite the fact that what she was doing was obviously wrong. But likewise, while he did care about her, he does know when to but even then, he had limits. Keep in mind, at the end of Season 3, when Sam came back and they hung out for a while, when Jeremy called Sam and told him, hey, can you send Odd to us, and she intentionally hid it, that got to Odd. Because, yeah, hanging out with Sam is fun, but if his friends are in danger, he wants to go help them. So, and that ultimately did hurt his relationship with her. He left even though he liked hanging out with her. Because though his friends are in danger, he's not just going to abandon them. And likewise, in earlier in Season 3, when Odd got split into 3, while throughout the episode, the Odd clones all bickered and grumbled and talked about who got to do what and when, the instant Xana launched his attack, and they realized they had to get to Lyoko, they just stopped bickering. They all started working together, trying to find ways to get around Xana's attack and get to the factory so that they can not only be merged back together, but that's so they could offer support on Lyoko so Aelita could deactivate the tower. No matter what happens, Odd does care about his friends, and while he may be a moron, or lazy, or a schemer, or various other, or even a gloater, when it comes down to it, he's not incompetent. And he's not a jerk. When his friends are in danger, he will rush in and he will try and help them. Go back to Season 1. In the episode with the laughing gas, when Jeremy accidentally screwed up his virtualization process, despite the fact that Odd was weak upon arriving in Lyoko and just gradually getting weaker, he was still trying to get Aelita to the tower as safely as possible, despite the fact that he clearly wasn't doing so well. And on top of that, while on Lyoko or in his state, he can be smart. He actually can be an excellent fighter. He can improvise. He can work out various scenarios when things need to. Keep in mind that just last episode he got into a close quarters combat with William and managed to actually beat him. Odd may be stupid, but that's only like in book smarts or work ethic. Street smarts, and when it really matters, he's like a genius. He can prioritize. He can fight off. He knows how to work through a crowd. Keep in mind that in the episode where Xana impersonated Franz Hopper and then deprived the group of their weapons, he actually improvised, and instead of just shooting at the creeper that he was fighting, he just decked it in the face several times. That was clearly not going to do a lot, but he was still working with what he had, and that's still smart. And this episode, I think, again, showcases the loyalty aspect of his personality. Because in the episode, when Ulrich and Aelita are trying to get to the tower and they end up fighting with William, Ulrich gets devirtualized. Now, thankfully, he took out the tarantulas with him, but ultimately, it's ultimately just William and Aelita, and as we've established, Aelita is not the best at combat. So the instant that Odd learns that Aelita's in danger, he just says, screw waiting around, I'm gonna go help her, despite the fact that he's still merged with Kiwi, and Jeremy makes it clear that if he gets devirtualized before the program is finished, then he and Kiwi are stuck together forever. But Odd is still saying, screw that. I'm not gonna let someone else pay for my mistake. He rushes to the ice sector where the activated tower is, and he confronts William, despite the fact that William could very easily still defeat him on a good day. And now Odd has the handicap of being merged with Kiwi. And again, it shows just how dedicated Odd is to his friends. That he genuinely is, that if they're in danger, he will risk life and limb to save them, even if it means putting himself in the crossfire, even if it means he gets hurt. Odd is loyal. He may be a troublemaker, he may be a gloater, he may be a schemer, and he may be lazy, but disloyal is something he never is. If his friends are in danger, or the world is resting on his shoulders, he will rush forward and fight back. He will protect those he cares about, even if it means that he gets hurt in the process. And if he's in battle, he will find ways to work around certain handicaps or what ails him. He has shown that ability before, and it's more than paid off. I think that's one of the aspects, and that's actually something that I appreciate. While he doesn't really get any development over the course of the show, honestly, he kind of doesn't need it. And I think as I watched this episode, I just kind of realized when he ran to go help Aelita, despite the fact that if he got devirtualized too early, it would doom his chances of ever being separated from Kiwi. It's honestly very heroic. It's a great character aspect and showcases why I don't think Odd needs it. He's the lovable goofball, but when push comes to shove, he's always there to give you backup. And if Odd's in your corner and you're and you need help, he'll be able to help, he'll be able to provide support and then some. My point is, if you're in trouble, it's great to have Odd in your corner. And I think that's a great character development, and I think that's a great character, and probably why he didn't get a lot of development through the series. He probably didn't need it, so yeah. That's pretty much the most I can talk about. But I think that's pretty much all I can talk about, despite through all my stuttering and my blah blah blah, my mouth noises that didn't result in anything. That's as much I can talk about. Again, the episode is filler. It's perfectly fine. Just simple, goofy antics. Nothing really comes of it. Entertaining to watch, but again, it did showcase more of Odd's character development, more of Odd of who character. See, screwing up even the end. It showcased more of what makes Odd a great character. He may be dumb, maybe conniving, maybe stupid, maybe lazy, but he is loyal, and when push comes to shove, he is always there to back you up, and he is a valuable asset, and will never back down if his friends are in danger. It's great, and it shows why he's great, and overall it showcases why Odd is a great character. So, yeah. That's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I apologize for all the stutters and various mouth noises I made throughout this. I don't like doing that. It's just annoying and it doesn't make for a good video, but I'm going to post it anyway because I don't want to do all that again and I'm a lazy moron. But I still hope you enjoyed this and I hope to see you next week. Take care.